Big shout out to Bean Working Espresso down in Skyring Terrace, Newstead.
Best coffee in the game.
Best absolute coffee in the game. Hooking the Platform podcast, and any listeners up with a 10% discount.
Shout out.
Shout out to Yolanda.
Yolanda.
That was a mouthful.
Their coffee's real fucking good. Get
Best coffee in the game, by far. Just opened up Skyring Terrace. You can order ahead and mention the Platform podcast for a 10% discount. This is the Platform podcast with B-Bad and Brandon.
You know, people pretending to give one of those, oh, yeah. I know what I'm talking about. You know, I got some sort of qualifications and point at the slide.
You have a PhD. You literally have a doctorate.
And I'm driving here, I'm like, 6 p.m. Like, no.
Yeah, I was like,
man,
just confirming.
I felt
and he's
so
like,
bad. And then the fucking maps. So I followed the link from Instagram, right?
yeah.
I'm getting towards like Kelvin Grove, towards Wilston, and I'm like,
It took you to the Grange, didn't it?
yes. Yeah.
There's another.
That's why I tried to call you. I was like, is this isn't right. Fortitude Valley, Fortitude Barbell. Like, Fortitude. This is the wrong place. Spun around, and yeah.
He still made it in time.
Didn't hit anyone either. Looking down at the phone, I'm like, ooh.
We can edit that out.
Oh, well.
Have we started?
Yeah.
Oh,
We record
no.
everything because it's just so great. The pre-chat before it is so good. Also, when I introduce you, is it Dr. Tim Piatkowski? Does that say that correct? Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Fuck, that's more nervous trying to get your pronunciation right.
Oh, the last name. So sorry, it's Piatkowski. It's Polish.
Say it again.
Piatkowski.
Alright, fuck.
Good luck, bro.
Sorry, let's just practice a couple of times. You can put this in this fucking episode because it's going to be hilarious. Sorry, say it again.
Piatkowski.
Piatkowski.
Yeah. So W's are like a V's, and the A's got an extra little
So Piatkowski.
Yeah.
That's
He's got
cool.
A's got a little jazz in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Fuck. Wow. Okay. Piatkowski.
Let's see if you
I would not have. Like, I've literally been calling you Tim Piatkowski for so long.
Oh, I think everybody does, you know, or they just, you know, don't bother. Oh, that's Tim. I'm like, yeah.
Fuck. Why does every Polish surname end in ski as well?
I think there's a few others. I've heard of a few others. I've seen a few others, but yeah,
It's
it
so
is
common.
the most common. I think it's just like one of those cultural, historical things. So
Yeah. Wow. On that note, welcome to our special guest, Dr. Tim Piatkowski. I put so much pressure on myself then.
Would you? I think
you
you got
just
the P
cheated up.
right. You got the P right.
Yeah.
Good.
And the ski.
And the ski.
Yeah, I got the ski and P. And I got your first name
Yep.
and Doctor.
And the
Yeah.
fucking doctor.
The most important part.
I'm going to call you Dr. T now.
Dr. T.
I reckon that's pretty cool. I feel like, you know, it's a pretty privileged title, but I don't know if I can stand by it.
Nah, you got this.
I think I earned it.
You're
but,
now Dr.
yeah.
T.
Well, as we'll discuss, but I should have probably... Oh, you've listened to a few of our episodes.
Probably
Yeah,
all of them,
yeah.
In fact, yeah.
All 75.
Oh, wow, yeah. Good man. In the last 3 days.
When you said, you know, you're coming on, I was like, right, I've got some catching up to do, and, you know...
Oh, look, as I tell many people, it's like you could spend an hour of your day doing much more productive and listening to much more educational stuff. So, but
I think it's great.
We do start off with a very important question of 21 words, who you are, what you do. You didn't prepare for this, did you?
No, but I should have.
We're going to
I
count them
heard
too.
the 20. I thought it was 25.
We're counting them.
Yeah, okay.
I count the sounds as well. So if
Yeah.
you burp, anything. Are you ready? Oh, he's seasoned veteran here. He knows not to say anything yet. And go. Thinking.
Academia, research, performance, and image enhancing drug use, harm reduction, body image, Australia, young men.
Okay, you got 6 words left. Thanks, Niall.
Spare time, training, reading,
Kung Fu.
kung fu.
21. Nice. Well done.
Very good.
That was actually pretty damn good, actually.
Yeah, but none of it made sense. Like, it was just kind of like...
It was just kind of a list.
It was 21
Yeah,
words.
It was a list of 21 words.
Damn.
So, exploring a little bit of what you just said, researching performance and image-enhancing drugs.
Yeah. I mean, they've got a few different names in the literature, don't they? Like, some people call them APEDs, like appearance and performance-enhancing drugs. Some people call them iPads, image and performance-enhancing drugs.
That just sounds too much like iPads.
Yeah.
I feel like you're getting a lawsuit from Apple soon if you're calling them that.
Yeah, then there's, PEDs, performance-enhancing PEDs. They used to call them body image drugs. Like, it just sort of changes, but I guess... I sort of saw that one as the most common. Like, in the literature, I was like, all right, we're sticking with PEDs. But, anything to do with anabolic androgenic steroids, growth hormones, insulin, pro-hormones, all the ancillaries, just everything's covered in one sort of term.
Wow.
So...
And you've got your... Can you explain your PhD more, sorry?
Yeah, sure.
Because I'll fuck it up like I did your name.
Sure. So... I actually started out in exercise sciences and then did an honours in applied science. I looked at electrical stimulation of the hamstrings, so via twitch interpolation.
That was like QUT, because I remember hearing about that.
Yeah. So it's still at QUT, just sort of moved faculties. So I was really doing a lot of neurophysiology sort of stuff. But I think it was really hard to get participants, and people didn't like getting electrocuted. So
Oh, you actually got electrocuted?
Oh yeah. To check if somebody can fully voluntarily activate a muscle, what you do is you put some electrodes over the muscle, or you can stimulate the nerve.
Yep.
You can do over the muscle stim,
Yep.
and then you zap them at increasingly higher intensities, and you stick their leg in what's called a dynamometer, so you
Yep.
can measure the torque output. And then you just, you see their legs sort of shank into it, and you hear a bit of a scream, or you yell, whatever noise. And, I'm strapping these guys into a chair. And
Strapping them into a chair?
Yeah. You strap them into the dyno and you get them to sign the,
Is that
ethics.
when they start thinking, oh, fuck?
They think, like, I like you, Timmy, but maybe not this much. I'm like, okay, stimulus cone. So I think, I got 14 guys to do it, but after that, I think I just got a bad reputation. And then, tried to do a PhD. Nobody wanted to do my research. I was like, right, I've ended that career, so I better move on to body image. And so started a PhD looking at body image and muscularity and masculinity, and I guess performance image enhancing drug use among Australian young men, because I thought our harm reduction sort of framework here in Australia at least isn't prepared for what's going on. I think it would be a lot better if we had a better support system like we do for traditional illicits. But obviously, for whatever reason, it's just not getting the attention it deserves. And there are, a lot of underlying issues that feed into that, and they're different for different people. But I think approaching it from a law enforcement standpoint, or from a don't do this because I said so standpoint, doesn't really do anything for anyone. Everybody's got their own, choices that they can make, and making sure that they make the most informed choices that they can is probably the most important thing to do. Yeah.
Because I've known you nearly 7 years now, I think. And you've been doing this for the whole time I've known you, and it's a really cool, I guess, to see the evolution of it. Like, you've had research published now, and you've had papers published in different journals and shit like that, and recognised, which is fucking sick. But as you said, the standpoint from the government is, let's just add more rulings to it. Let's add more regulation. Let's add harsher penalties for people who are doing it. And there's so many underlying issues. 'Cause I think, and a lot of people aren't aware that, use of anabolic steroids and possession is a Schedule 1 drug. Yeah,
so in Queensland, we're at a Schedule 1 that's different to any other state.
It's not that in other states?
No. So in 2014, it was actually changed, and there's a few different stories circulating about why, but I think it was closely linked to those VLAD law changes.
Yep.
So you can't actually impose that extra 15 to 25 years unless you have a bottom sentence to give somebody.
Yep.
So in trying to prosecute somebody with those VLAD laws, they had to move a few things around. That's the sort of general story there. But so 0 to 25 years for those, just even for possession. Nobody's going to get thrown in prison for 25 years for a vial of test or something, but I think it's just something important to consider. People don't know that.
Yep.
But it doesn't do anything to really solve the problem, does it?
That was going to be my question. Do you reckon there's less people using it because of this 0 to 25 year potential risk involved?
I reckon there's more.
Yeah, so in Queensland we have higher weights of seizures recorded than any other state. We have more seizures recorded. We have a higher domestic production rate. And, unfortunately, we know this with other illicit substances. We know that law enforcement or harsher penalties doesn't actually do anything in terms of affecting change. Normally, you get a resistance creates persistence sort of response where people just either don't care. And in this case, some people don't know. So, they suddenly think that it's okay and nobody tells them, and then they get caught or they get in trouble. And that's when things seem to really go downhill for people, when they enter that prison system or they start to enter that court system. And then suddenly they have all these other complications to worry about. And how's that reducing harms for anyone?
Yeah.
And I remember when it got changed, there was so much in the media. There was so much hype around violence and people on performance-enhancing drugs, or getting caught with these performance-enhancing drugs and being in these violent situations, going out and stuff. But then the other part of that equation was that never spoken about. There was alcohol involved. There was other party drugs involved, recreational drugs, and that's the, I guess, like everyone knows, I've used PEDs in the past, and that's the annoying part because you get thrown into that stigma.
Yep. So at the moment, and we so in collaboration with my mentor down in Melbourne, Matt Dunn, we're working on a systematic review looking at all the papers that are available about aggression, violent behaviour, and anabolic androgenic steroids. So, basically looking at a snapshot of what we've got so far and whether there's actually any link. Now, a lot of the older papers, you'll see that, you might have a case study where some bloke was, using D-bol or something and suddenly takes a cleaver to his wife. But and they write about it and, steroids cause this. Well, no, he in actual fact, the guy had underlying mental health conditions and other substance abuse problems that were exacerbated by however many weeks of using, D-bol. Who knows what else was going on? But, research has come a long way, but there's still been this stigma about aggression and violent behaviour. Now, I did a number of interviews in 2014-15, and from those, the only instances of violent behaviour that young men who... So the interviews were with young men between 16 and 30. They had to be taking bodybuilding supplements every day. They had to be working out 3 or more times a week, and they had to have used or be using PEDs. Now, a few of them, they did say, they vocalised, we get into fights and stuff when we go out. Nobody reported any sort of violent behaviour or aggression in their day-to-day life. It was always alcohol had to be present, recreational drugs, so things like ecstasy or amphetamines had to be present, and usually they were with mates or peers. So there was a lot of other important factors in that dynamic. Yeah. Now, it's a small-scale study. I only had that particular subsample was 12, and it'd be good to look at that. I mean, from a larger scale, but I mean, it does provide at least some sort of weight.
Snapshot and
it gives you some weight to think, okay, well, so testosterone's going up, but if people know that that's in their system, I mean, you got to trust them to control whatever emotional impulses they're going to have, and for the most part, they seem to be able to do that. So I think the more important thing,
I've always had this kind of look on PEDs, and they don't take away your ability to make a conscious choice. Recreational drugs, in my opinion, and speaking from my opinion, they are used as an escape from a reality, which means you escape from yourself, and sometimes this is, fucking alcohol, ecstasy, whatever, you lose the ability to make conscious choice. So as someone who's on test and you're more aware that, okay, look, my testosterone's up, I could be a little bit more aggressive, I'm going to make a conscious choice to really dissect every situation and go, all right, is that actually what it is or whatever it is? You don't get that ability when you add alcohol into the mix. It's just straight bang. It's a really, really, for me, frustrating, and I think for a lot of people within the strength world, that PEDs are looked at in that light. Because there's always, as you said, there's another factor that hasn't been accounted for.
Well, I mean, the only, I guess, other thing to consider is that if perhaps you're 20 kilos heavier than the other guy, they got an extra 20 kilos of muscle, and you do something, it's going to damage them a lot more. You know? Yeah. So that's the other, I guess, danger that I guess maybe people have to be reminded of. But, rather than saying, oh, these people are all violent and crazy, maybe we should spread a message like, oh, if you choose to do this, then maybe, a good idea would be to be careful not to touch these other substances,
while
alcohol.
Doing this one.
Yeah, like if you're going to go and do that recreational stuff, well, okay, don't bother with this stuff. But too often people are mixing and matching whatever, and that's, we don't know what the actual health effects are going to be, let alone, immediate sort of responses. So got to be careful.
It's such a broad, there's so many things to consider in this.
Well, I guess one thing that occurred to me was, so for example, I think that people within the powerlifting community have this real camaraderie, and it provides them with some protection. They have this sense of mateship. Not only that, they're all about performance. And one of the things I wrote about in my PhD is the difference between, image-centric sort of goals, so goals related to body capital, and looking good and living a particular lifestyle, whatever you want to call that, Ziz lifestyle, Brus lifestyle.
Ziz lifestyle.
Yeah.
Damn, I haven't heard that name for a
I
while.
gotta say,
That's the OG.
that is the OG fucking rest in peace, pour some out for a fallen homie. Fucking hell.
But, if there's that lifestyle, and there's, let's just take whatever it takes to look good, not monitor our training and diet, go out every weekend. And then there's this performance sort of basis that seems to protect people as well. Like, oh, I want to lift this much weight for this many reps, or I want to lift this weight, or I want to hit this goal at this competition. And those things seem to protect people as well. So I think, and you'd think it wouldn't be like that, because, I mean, for bodybuilding, so not really a team sport. Powerlifting, it's not really a team sport, but it is. It is a lot. I mean, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but
no, we
seems
100% agree.
Like there's some other factors there where, they protect people from getting into trouble.
And when you mean protection, are you looking at it as a sense of if they are experiencing some issue, they have the ability to talk to someone going through something similar?
Yeah, well, I mean, people tend to do that on, say, internet forums has become a bigger thing, but the problem with those is there's a lot of distribution of incorrect information, or, information that hasn't got any evidence base behind it. Sometimes, I think there's a few, I guess, ways that it needs to be attacked, doesn't it? Because there's the health-related complications, so, don't run 10 grams of test a week, or something crazy.
Let's not get that wrong, people. 10 grams, too much. That's 10 vials in 1 week.
Gone over the limit.
That more is not more in that situation. We will flag that now.
I think I picked the wrong number there. Maybe 1, 2.
1 gram, still a lot.
I think, there's those health-related things that perhaps people with more experience can guide younger initiates on. And then
one of the challenges must be that because it is an illegal drug, I guess, there isn't much for a young fella wanting to jump on something. There's no real pathway of real guidance that's set out for him, is he?
Yeah, well, there's the traditional...
Other than, the mate you may be getting it off for.
Or you just go up to the biggest,
the biggest dude in the gym who says, "Yeah, take it all."
And I think that person is more than happy to give them peanut oil for $200 a vial or whatever, and just watch them go nowhere or whatever, and that's a bit of a problem. So I think there's the traditional, first time 250 milligrams of testy to 500 milligrams of testy sort of, but we don't actually have any evidence for that. I mean, you'd probably get away with lower doses. There are some papers starting to come out now. They've been around for a while, but I mean, at least in Japan, they sort of use testy as a contraceptive for men.
Really?
Yeah, so you can take your, manhood into your own hands. Women are given the contraceptive pill. Asian men tend to respond better than Caucasian men. Their sperm count will drop. It's not the same for Caucasians. We can't,
Well, I was going to say, I know plenty of guys who've gone...
I think there's some different physiology there.
Wow, that's actually very interesting.
So I think from memory, I can't remember the author. I think it was about 2012 maybe that it came out, and they were looking at, I think they gave them 125 milligrams a week or 250 milligrams a week for 12 weeks. And by 12 weeks, the 250 milligram group was safe.
Wow. And they're just busting nut in their misses and not getting pregnant now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Essentially, yeah.
But that's,
wow.
That's actually quite, because you hear the rumor, the myth that you can't fall pregnant when you're on gear.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know plenty of people that have fucking done that.
And there's a lot of anecdotes out there, and I've heard of many. So I think, in that respect, be careful, everyone.
Still wrap your willy.
Yeah. Be no risky behaviours.
Just don't have sex. That's what we're saying.
Until marriage.
Until marriage. Until you want babies.
In a church.
With Jesus present.
Absolutely.
I probably shouldn't say that. Anyway.
So sorry, we got a bit off track there, but there's that health-related component, and then there's the psychological stresses of training, stresses of diet, stresses of dialing everything in to get the best benefits can take a toll on somebody. So having mates that you can talk to or people with similar interests is probably important. So I mean, perhaps in bodybuilding they don't have that. Everybody's out for themselves, or I don't know. It just doesn't seem to work out the same way for that group of athletes.
100%. Then you obviously, as you said before, nutrition stress, training stress, nutrition stress, life stress. But the one thing we got to consider with them as well is diet stress. That's going to play a massive role.
Well, I guess they got to dial things in a bit more. Hey,
100%.
Yeah.
Fuck, if I feel a bit bad during a powerlifting prep, I'll just go down to my local pizza shop and grab a pizza, and instantly I feel better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because pizza solves everything.
Fuck yeah. Yes, it fucking does. Do you think the body image stuff, there's more kids sort of reaching for gear essentially just based on social media and a pressure to feel and look a certain image that's out there now? And
so I mean, there was another study I did where you didn't have to be on PEDS to do it. It was an Australia-wide survey, so I got 250 guys males to do it between 16 and 30. They had to be training 3 or more times a week. They had to be using bodybuilding supplements every day. What I used was, so after, going through the survey questionnaires, there was some self-esteem questionnaires there was some peer pressure questionnaires, there was some questionnaires on social media, it was a comprehensive survey. And then what I used was an analytical technique called structural equation modelling. So what you basically do is you can just simply put, I guess, look at what factors influence the end goal. So I put the outcome factor as, say, drive for muscularity, and there's a scale for drive for muscularity there from McCreary and Sace all the way back from 2000. And we look at how these other factors contribute. How do each of them contribute to drive for muscularity? And are there any levels to that? Does self-esteem, is that on level 1 or level 2 or level 3? Or how does that contribute to the outcome? And so the end model that sort of came out, and this was informed by the interviews that I did earlier, is that we've got factors like self-esteem, like body image issues during adolescence, influencing, and sorry, I should also say perception of body by others, so how we think that others perceive us, influencing peer pressure and social media. And sorry, I should also say that identity, that group muscular identity, and that influences drive for muscularity. So it's like you have, we'll just dial it down to one, self-esteem influences peer pressure, which then through peer pressure works to influence drive for muscularity. But social media and peer pressure were the biggest two. So those are the biggest two things that influenced how much people wanted to get more muscular.
Wow.
Wow.
And whatever steps.
That's a scary thing.
Steps they wanted to
That
take.
is scary.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm looking, I don't know why, but my head went straight to, as a parent, that's a scary thing that your child's being influenced predominantly by social media now. Like, if you wind the clock back, I'm sure it would have been, peer pressure would have been there.
Yep.
100%. Maybe a parent's influence, I don't really know, but I guess you could maybe classify that as peers.
Yep.
But like, we're in a day and age now where we have now, like, obviously research showing us that kids are being, and between the ages of 16 and 30, a study was on, like, these are kids. Even like, fuck, I remember being 21. I was not an adult. It's like they're being influenced by this ideal of social media that's, again, we all know, Instagram. You see a snapshot of the person's life when they're at their best. You don't see many
Which
people...
isn't always the moment they shared it either.
Exactly.
And why that photo could be fucking old.
100%. It's like you don't see what they've done to get to that point or anything else like that. This is all you see, and so that's all you're going to attribute to.
But that's not illegal.
No, that's not.
That's okay. It's okay to put those
100%.
images out there.
100%.
You know, oh yeah, I was on a gram of test for 10 weeks and now I look like this. But you know, we'll just forget about the first part. I look like this because I did all the work. I'm not taking away from the person's work. It's just if you're 12, 13, 14, 16 years old and you don't have a context or a foundation to look at that.
Yeah.
And you just think, oh, how, you know, girls like that and I'm not like that, and
How do I get like
that
that?
sucks. That sucks. But you know, there's all these years of training that the guy or girl might have to make first and get all these other disciplined habits dialed in before they even consider something else. So it's really, you know, it's not fair. It's not fair.
It's a scary thought. But
Extra pressure.
an extra pressure that people a lot older than us would never have to deal with.
I was scrolling through Insta a while back and I saw ads for Psalms. Like, yeah. Well, it's illegal. Like, Psalms have been illegal since 2018 in Australia. Like this, you know, we don't actually know the long-term health effects. So I think, you know, somebody clicks that and what? Like, how are they allowed to do this? I don't know. I think there needs to be some context there for people, like, to just know, like, okay, you know, Psalms, this is, again, you're like, you got to be careful with this stuff, and we don't know what it does, and we don't know the long-term effects, so we haven't had time to test it. But okay, just buy it. Just click this and buy it.
Give us your PayPal.
Yeah.
It's weird. Well, we've had other conversations about like how people are accessing they're getting their gear now through black market websites, and you got to pay through Bitcoin because, again, the legality of the law enforcement is this big scary thing in the back of your head, but you don't know what you're getting. Like, you don't know, as you said before, it could be fucking peanut oil, grapeseed oil, like you just olive oil, for fuck's sake.
And I think that's the other issue here. I mean, people don't know what they're getting. There's an increase in those dark web vendors and that, you know, internet purchases and deliveries and things like that. And I guess, you know, for convenience sake or whatever reason, people are opting for that, maybe for anonymity or whatever. But at the end of the day, you know, it's not from a pharmacy. It hasn't been produced in, you know, I guess a clean, sterile environment, and therefore there's already a risk. So, you know, people don't even really have the option. I mean, there's a few options where you can mail away, you know, like a mill or something or whatever and get it looked at. But then you've got to wait for that result, and you're going to do that with every vial, or like where are you going to stop the testing? How are you going to actually monitor your doses and keep them the same? And the only way, like you said, Brand, was through blood tests. Like you got to do that blood testing regularly on yourself. But if we could, I guess, regulate that, it is what it is, or that people are getting what they're getting, then it could help them make healthier choices or not take, these high risks.
Because there's the big rumour going, or rumour, myth, whatever you want to call it, that, you get a vial of test and it's 250 meg per mil, that you're probably only getting 125 meg per mil. And I think there's more evidence to support that now. And I think if we were able to regulate what we were, given, it would stop people from taking excessively more. Because again, in the back of their head, they're like, well, I'm not actually getting the dosage. I need to take more then to compensate for that. I'm supposed to be doing this. And it's like, well, no.
So, like with say, test D, you've only got 180 or so milligrams of active test. The rest is the ester weight. You move to something like SAS, goes down again. I think it's 156 milligrams or something. And it's the same with, any other compound. Heavier the ester, the less weight of compound that you actually get. But then on top of that, what if they're putting, what if there's only 50 milligrams, or what if there's, then you get another one and they've overdosed it and it's at 300 milligrams or something. And suddenly your hormones are all over the shop because you can't get a stable, a stable level in your blood because you keep having to switch compounds because of all these issues. At the end of the day, you're going to make do, but it's, that's going to bring its own health risks, isn't it?
100%.
Is there much education out there for people on there that blood work is something they should do, I guess, lack of a better word, formally, rather than on forums and stuff? Is there anything out there for people to look for? Or that would be really good, wouldn't it?
The issue here is, there's this...
Or it seemed to be encouraging illegal behaviour, I guess.
Well, yeah, it's a tough one. There's this stigma with GPs, isn't there? That they don't want to... And it's getting better, it is getting better, but traditionally they didn't want to treat steroid users or, P users. And that dates back to, this distrust actually dates back to 70s, like 1970s, because initially American Medical Association released a statement that steroids do not work, And for whatever, they did some studies. I think they, didn't use very high dosages, and they just said, oh, it didn't work. And then athletes obviously said, well.
We're running a little faster over here.
I lifted more weight.
And so I think...
Let's make them legal.
It took until I think 90s or, for everything to turn around. But by then, there was already this distrust. So... Unfortunately, clinicians got a bad rap. It's sorting itself out now, but there's still, some GPs out there don't want to do blood work for people that are using. And
but is that? Are they Are they allowed to say that? I'm not sure how it works. I'm not a GP doctor by any means, but I thought they had a duty of care that if I come to them with an issue or something, they have a
ethical decision.
Or a code that they have to help.
Yeah, and I haven't looked into it too much, but I think they've got their own sort of... They can refuse to treat.
Yep.
Alternatively, I think there's a real ethical sort of moral thing there. If somebody continues to use, they've got to say, stop using. Don't do this to your body because it's not good. Because we believe that there's going to be some cardiovascular complications down the track or whatever.
And that's warranted.
Yeah, 100%. But at the same time, how's that going to reduce harms? Somebody's going to keep doing it, so why don't you just monitor them? That is a form of help seeking already. If somebody goes and wants their blood work monitored, that's help seeking, that's engagement.
That's doing the right thing.
And if as a health professional you turn that down, you're basically saying, well, okay, no, well, I don't want to engage with you, and you shut them out straight away. They're trying to enter the system, you shut them out of the system. They're like, okay, well, that was pointless. They're going to keep doing what they're doing, but it's going to get riskier. or they're going to do riskier things. They're probably not going to go back. If they start having psychological issues, they won't go to the psychologist because they already had a bad experience with a health professional. And, it perpetuates a cycle. So if we, as professionals can, in the first instance, engage and show that, we're interested and that we care, then down the track, that's really going to lead to better health overall. And, there's that important trust. We spoke about that the other day. Yeah. There's that trust, isn't there, that you've got to develop, whether you're a coach, whether you're a GP, whether you're
in any industry.
Whoever.
Yeah, I can talk to my GP about my former. Oh fuck it, I don't give a shit. We'll get Noel to edit that out. But I can talk to my GP about it because I trust him. There's a certain level of trust, but it's like my clients want to talk to me about it. It's because they trust me. Not just with their training, but that's how we build the trust. And they're like, hey, this is something that I want to look into. And the first thing I always do is go speak to your doctor. Go get your bloods done before you do make any other decision. Read an article I wrote, which highlights the worst case scenario, because you need to be fully aware of what you're getting yourself into.
And do you guys find that's an issue that people, younger people aren't fully aware?
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
Other kids that I've trained over the years are because I say the same thing. I say, I'll usually get some people who have already been on it, and then they'll tell me after a bit of time, I'm actually got to let you know I've been upgrading a bit. I said, yeah, I noticed you're training. I know. I've been waiting for you to talk to me about it.
But you wait for them to make that step.
Yeah, well, I have a conversation, and they're like, nah. But then I'll say, hey, let's go to the doctor, eh? Let's just do the right thing and just check on everything. And the first thing they'll always say is like, oh, no, I don't want to talk to my doctor.
100%.
100%. I've had some where I've literally had to force them. I'm like, man, I'm not going to coach you unless you look after yourself. So I need you to go there and get checked up just to make sure everything's good.
And I think
if you don't, I'm sorry, man, I'm not going to help you.
I've had a conversation with a client recently who's a little bit older, so not a young man. And he was like, the conversation was the same. I was like, look, let's go to the doctor first. I can guide you in what I know in my experiences, but you got to get checked up, got to see what else is going on first before we make a decision. And he lives a little bit further away, and he was just like, oh, well, do you recommend anyone? Because there's no, I don't want to go to the GPs here. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, and then I can, the only people I know is my GP and another bloke down the road, who I've spoken to previously about it. It's that there is a stigma around, I don't want to talk to my GP about it. It's like, you can, again, if you find the right person.
So it's really about, creating a bit of a network of safety and the right people to talk to.
100%.
Like that.
Because I don't we spoke about this. We spoke about this the other day as well. There's no real way to get information unless you're, Google searching. But again, you don't know what you're looking for, or you talk to the biggest bloke in the gym who's probably not the smartest with it, and could have, probably gotten his information off someone off, someone random as well. You don't know. And I had a look at a couple of resources that you presented to myself the other day, which I had never seen before, and they're amazing. Guided, they ticked a lot of the questions for someone getting into it. It's like, oh, have you considered this? Have you considered that? This is the preferred, needle length or whatever. It's those things that people fail to think about because they don't know, but they can't go and ask anywhere.
So I think, we've got a good needle service provider, NSP system here in Queensland. I mean, that's been building for a while. But, they go there, get clean needles, get the sharps container, swabs. Initially, those NSPs weren't really prepared for, to start seeing this influx maybe 15 years ago. Yeah, about 10 years ago. Between that time, slowly rates of PED users were going up, up from, I think, 1% to 2% in maybe 2009 up to 7% by 2013, 14. And, I think we're holding steady at around somewhere around 8 to 9%, but that was a year or two ago. So
that's still a massive jump from 1 or 2%.
So sorry, that's of the people attending the exchange. Yeah,
Oh, right,
yeah. So lots of people going to these services, getting their sharps. Obviously, there's people that don't use those services and get them from pharmacies or wherever else. I think, initially they were unprepared, but what they did was they engaged with the users and sort of, had that community approach where they learnt from the PED users and they learnt how to build that trust. And slowly over the years, they've been building a little bit more and a little bit more. So, I mean, that's the way to, I guess, give them the right gauges, teach them safe injecting so there's no abscesses and things like that. Because those things are the real, I guess...
Well, that's fucking scary.
Yeah, the scary, visually scary harms that you can see.
And again, I mean...
If you don't know, you might just end up doing something like that to yourself.
You hear it all the time of shit going wrong, but you don't know the extremes of it. And then that, one of the things you gave me the other day, I was looking at it, I was like, holy fuck, that's that would scare someone. Into
half your glutes missing. And
yeah.
Well, I mean, I think water-based substances like, say, stanozolol or something, injectables like that, it's harder to keep those things clean. So, but it's the same with oils, I guess, to some extent. But, some sort of bacteria or flesh-eating virus, gets into it and suddenly there goes half your glute.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
Whatever.
it's real fucked.
And then, say goodbye to ever having a good squat or deadlift.
Cool.
Yeah. So it can happen, but I mean, that's one of the things to be, I guess, careful. I mean, we know that PED users, they don't really share needles as much. They reuse them sometimes, so they probably should stop doing that.
There's some danger involved in that, yeah.
Oh, it just gets really blunt, and it's not the best way to do things. But it's just about not being lazy and making sure everything's there. But it's just impressive that I guess those services really engaged with the users and they managed to start to form a few relationships. But peers is still always the way to go. I mean, PED users always will listen to their peers over anybody else, and that's why it's so important to make sure that there's
right
mentors.
Yeah.
Well, there's mentors there to give the right information, the right evidence-based information, and that really are looking out for the health and the well-being of...
Because that's something you're working on now, isn't it? Trying to create a network of people that, if they are young men experiencing any form of issue, whether it be with the physical side of the PED, or the mental side, you're trying to create that, I guess, as we've come back to a lot of the community to provide that support and almost a mentorship and help people guide, and so they feel safe enough to talk to someone who's walked the walk.
Yeah, well, I think that's an important part of it, number one. Number two, Melbourne at the moment is the only state in Australia that has a steroid peer education program, and that's been running for about 20 years.
Wow.
But nobody else has adopted that approach.
Why? Sorry.
I've no idea. I think, there's a few...
That doesn't make sense. If there's such a fucking rise in using, surely you'd be like, fuck. But no, let's just go fucking harsher on the law enforcement.
Government and policy seem to think that that's what's going to work.
It's clearly not.
Data says otherwise.
Surely someone's advising these dumb cunts going, what we're doing isn't working.
Yeah.
More jail time.
I mean,
that's
more jail time.
And
That'll fix
again,
it.
going back to what I said before, it's fucking annoying because we're in the industry where it's so prevalent.
And that don't you guys think that there's that fear and that stigma just causes more problems for people? They can't reach out. They can't.
Worried about talking to anyone. I'm going to talk to the wrong person.
So you're just scared all the time.
Yeah.
There's really, are we going back to the Stone Age? Are we going back to World War II? Back to, are we going to be East, West, Berlin?
Sorry, can we just... This program in Melbourne's been running for 20 years, yet...
Yeah.
And no other state has fucking taken initiative to take it on board.
Yep.
So this started in 2000, the year 2000.
I think 1996, actually.
So even longer. Yeah. What the fuck is wrong?
So...
I'm very passionate and very triggered right now.
And, here's the thing. They've got Kay Stanton, who's great. That's the only peer mentor they have. I mean, she used to be a bodybuilder and she's got lots of experience. But people from Queensland have to call her. They don't have anyone here. That's the number that they hand out at NSPs here because there's nobody here. And, I've recently, and I'm still, running this study, sort of trying to look at, I guess, both the resources available for, I guess, PED users and the implications of including more psychoeducation material, so looking after, your headspace as well as side effects and physical stuff. But one of the things that's sort of coming out, and so I should mention, I'm obviously also interviewing GPs and harm reduction coordinators. But looking at like the data as a whole, one of the things that's coming out, it's all about that trust and rapport. It's all about, using peers, because that's who these guys tend to trust. And so if we could bolster that network and actually get something like that going in Queensland, then we could probably significantly reduce the harms, and have somebody, in at least the same state as these people that they can talk to. And that person, whether they're, driving around, whether it's just a number to call, I think as a state, and then obviously, as a country as a whole, we need to really get behind bolstering this network, because PED users are just a vulnerable population that aren't getting the attention that they need. They're being left to, get into more trouble, experience more risks, have more harms, and, the only response is, okay, let's harsher penalties, like you said, Joe. Harsher penalties.
Is there any? What are other countries doing?
So I know, sorry, correct me if I'm wrong, but in some countries it's completely legal.
Yes.
And they've had a significant drop in usage.
I think the interesting thing is, maybe there's a few cultural differences, but I think one place that comes to mind is like Lebanon. I do believe. It's obviously, you think of Netherlands and you think of their drug policies, and it's just a completely different response from people, like, focusing again on those health-related harms and focusing on, the well-being of people rather than prevention, punishment, punitive solutions, seems to get a better response. And people also seem to take, I guess, more measures, be a bit more careful, give them the option to test what they get. And then, you've got other, I guess, countries and places that adopt, I guess, they still have their punitive salute, they're still scheduling, but at least they have, I guess, intervention, rehabilitation, treatment programs that actually, I guess, address these things. Thing is, with intervention, I guess, some people don't see it as a problem, and I'm not saying either way that it is or isn't a problem, but, people that use PEDs, if they have an underlying eating disorder, well, maybe that's probably got to be addressed. Or if you're using, PEDs and you've got an underlying condition like muscle dysmorphia, that's probably something that needs to be addressed. Now, after using PEDs, generally, for at least for men, self-esteem goes up for a little while, but the underlying problems might still be present.
Exist, right?
So there's other things that should probably be considered, rather than, if people present for substance use, people don't often present for, I've got a steroid problem, or whatever people say. No. They'll present with some sort of other substance use, alcohol, other drugs, or they'll present with another issue, another issue. So they might have
Anxiety, depression, or something.
Yeah. And, you can't attribute that to steroids, because there's a whole other heap of factors.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it just baffles me. I just was like, fucking rant.
How do you go finding people for your studies like this? For, 'cause we're talking about me dropping my phone. Like how there is this struggle for people who want to reach out and talk to people they don't know. Did you find that challenging?
Yeah.
Going through all this sort of research?
So I always, had those links, I guess, through exercise sciences, and then through, I worked at a few sup shops and a few bars, and sort of through that way, I guess, got a bit of rapport.
GPO days, bro.
Oh, GPO.
So I got a bit of rapport in the community. Is this guy, he's not about causing issues for anybody.
Yep.
He's just looking to help, and
Just looking
I
for
think
information
that way,
and help.
Good mad cunt.
just trying to, I guess, change the face of that within
Yep.
Australia and make some good differences, I guess. So,
Can I ask why, like how it became so important to you? Did you have like friends going through shit and you just watched on, or was it?
yeah, I think as interesting as like applied science research is, it's always, well, you know, that sort of work extends to athlete development and things like that, and that's interesting, but I didn't feel like you know, they really needed the assistance. I feel like, you know, there's particularly young men, and I'm not trying to single out, I guess, men. Well, I mean, that's the side that I'm on board with, and I'm just trying to look after, you know, our side.
You just,
I guess,
like, it looks like it just like you were trying to make a difference.
Yeah,
more.
well, it'd be nice to provide some support, because you can see, well, I've seen how bad it can go for some people, and you know, they probably don't see it as that from the outset. They just think, oh, you know, they don't see where it can go wrong, and if there was only like a little bit more support, or there was, you know, a few more people that would get around them, then we could stop things from going downhill and people ending up in prison, or people ending up you know, with abscesses or whatever health
No
issues.
more butt.
You know.
Their butt disappears.
Yeah, half a
They can't
glute gone.
squat.
Yeah.
Right. Is there many other people doing research or putting together papers like you at the moment in Australia or internationally?
So definitely internationally, definitely in Australia. There's a few groups. There's a few researchers at UQ. But I mean, I guess I'm definitely on that early career research side. I'm definitely a lot younger than the other people, and so I'm still sort of learning about that academic process. And but I mean, you know, to have that mentorship, I guess, from not only my supervisors at QT and UQ, but down in Melbourne, like it's been good. So, you know, I think as Australia just sort of needs to band together a little bit more in terms of its research in this direction. We need to find, you know, there is a human drug enhancement network where people, you know, researchers have collaborated on things. I think we just need a little bit more cohesion and, you know, really work together a bit more to spearhead projects to really target the community. Because it's one thing, you know, doing research and, oh, that's an interesting finding, et cetera, but, you know, to give it some context and to put it into practice for the community, I think that's the most important thing, because what's the point of, you know, writing papers if it doesn't actually translate into helping the people that you want to help?
100%.
So,
So there's an underlying factor for you. You really just want to be able to help people from this outside of this. Essentially, you know, 5-10 years from now, you'd no doubt like to see it very differently to what it is now, and how people are sort of assisted or lack of assisted.
yeah, well, I think, you know, things are already opening up, aren't they? Like, you know, there is that media demonisation, but, you know, GPs are getting a little bit more, building that rapport with clients. I mean, coaches are getting more and more educated and upskilling more. If we could get that peer mentor sort of network going, if we could get some more, I guess, more understanding and more of like a harm reduction approach, then those are all important things, you know?
Fucking hell. Man, it sounds like you're on a fucking mission, and I love it. And it's a good one too. Like it's what the industry, and not just from a like you obviously understanding educational point, but from a harm prevention point of view. It's what it needs.
Well, how do you guys see the landscape at the moment? Like from
You pretty much summed it up for me. Like, you know, I've got a few people that I talked about before. Like they feel, I guess, unsupported, misinformation. Literally got a
Lost. They just feel lost.
Blindfold. They know they want to do it. They may have already done it.
Done it
and
wrong.
they had no fucking clue what they're doing, and just felt really nervous about reaching out to talk to someone about it.
And
whether it was myself as a peer or actually a professional, because I don't pretend to have a fucking clue about that stuff, but know that they need to be guided with help, and they would just be nervous the whole time. So I can't even imagine what they would have been like before they even had that initial conversation with me first.
And we spoke about it the other day. It's like it's that law enforcement factor.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if I admit to something, what could happen? And that's going to be a big fear for a lot of people because of how it's positioned within Queensland law and our media. So it's like it's an unhealthy environment right now or what I would deem an unhealthy environment if there's no trust, if there's no, like, I know within my community, if it's spoken about or whatever, I can at least guide them on a better path. I'm not saying it's the most correct path by any means, but at least I can say, go to a doctor, speak to this person, and we'll create a plan. And that way they know that they're supported. You know, we'll consult with someone in the States for it.
And what about when it comes to like if somebody wants to stop I guess both directions. If somebody wants to, you know, start really, really all out, let's bash the gear. What's the response there? And what if somebody says, or what if you notice, you know, somebody's not going so good, and you're like, maybe it's time to ease up.
I have that conversation. I'm not afraid to have that conversation now.
Yeah.
I'll pick the warning. Oh, not pick the warning signs, but I'll be very. If it's their first one, I'll be very checking them weekly, regularly, whatever. Be like, all right, how we going? How you feeling? What have you noticed? How's your mood? Things like that. If someone takes that next step and, as you said, bash the gear, like
The
first thing we do is sit down, understand why we're doing it. Again, get more bloods. Again, consult with Team Evil Genius, so Broderick, in the States, and we go, okay, cool. This is the goal. This is performance goal. What do we need to do? What's safe? What's unsafe? And we spoke about before, elite performance isn't necessarily healthy. Where can we meet in the middle? How can I govern my health the best, knowing I'm about to do this to my body? And that's a conversation that's not going to happen with me, because I don't, as Johnny said, like I know a tenth of the research and all the understanding. Like, it's just not something that I want to, I guess, tell someone to do. Not necessarily get it wrong, but just there's so many factors to be involved that there's an expert out there that knows this stuff back to front.
Well, I think, you know, even those guys in the States and Canada, you know, kudos to them. They're doing great, but they're still piecing together, you know, animal studies. They're piecing together what little human studies we have, piecing together.
No one's really going to fund research for someone to bang 10 grams of test, are they?
It's unethical.
Yeah.
Like
That'd be interesting research.
Yeah, well, you know, we can't do that to another human. Despite, you know, some people probably would or some people have, but, you know, how can we quantify? We need, you know, a certain amount of test subjects. We need to put them all, participants, we need to put them all through the same processes.
Just advertise on Facebook for that, yeah. Just medical research. We're just going to, heaps of gear. Who's up? Who's keen?
Everyone, hands up.
Who wants to get big real quick?
6-pack secrets.
And then, you know, I think that's why it's so tough, because, you know, those research, you know, guys, I think ladies as well, have to piece together a few things. Same with endocrinologists. I mean, they're piecing together, you know, maybe they're studying female contraceptives, but they can piece together things about how, you know, I guess using peds for females is going to affect these things. But it, you know, we don't. It's a tough evidence base, because number one, you know, at the higher dosages particularly, it starts to cause a lot of harms. Number two, can't ethically do, you know, those sorts of things to humans, I guess, nowadays. So there's lots and lots of piecing together. It'd just be good, I guess, to have that knowledge nationally, not have to keep consulting outside of, you know, and to get it all sort of networked in one place, because
And there's a heap there are people in Australia doing really good things, and but I think it's still so much from that performance enhancing side. It's not the harm reduction side. Like again, they tie in together, don't get me wrong, but it's always promoted as better performance. It's never like, oh, this is the way to do it so you don't hurt yourself.
Well, I mean, you know, if you want to
But that creates buy-in, I guess.
Yeah, well, if you want to squat a certain amount of... Yeah, actually, sorry, no, great point. Buy-in, like, well, how are you going to engage with people?
This guy, yeah.
How are you going to engage with people? If they care about, you know, deadlifting 300 and they're going to do that anyway. Well, there's your in. Okay, well, what's the best way? What's the best compounds to do that? But let's manage their health. Like, okay, they're doing this. Let's add this in. Let's monitor bloods this way. Let's change their diet. Make sure training's dialed in, and then once they achieve their goals, start talking about maybe looking after another aspect of their life.
And that's the conversation that's got to have. Is like, once you finish this, because the performance enhanced drugs will affect your cardiovascular system. They'll do this and this. We got to now not much reverse that, but improve on what has been done.
And particularly for younger, or I guess more initiates, that could be the way in. Like, you can get better performance with less, or those sorts of things. Like, I guess this
is the one scenario where less is more.
Yeah. Maybe before you.
Usually more is more, not today.
Johnny has a very good saying, it's more is more.
More is more. Not today.
Not today.
Training volume,
more
food.
Food, more is more.
Just maybe not more gear all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Because eventually, I guess previously we thought testosterone didn't downgrade receptors, but I guess heavier compounds like tren and things like that, there is probably receptor downregulation. And if you're not, regularly cycling through your compounds, and if you're not using PCT at all, and you just blast cruise, and then it turns into blast, then where's the time for things to go back to normal, for like a bit of a reset or anything like that? I mean, there's got to be time for that stuff as well. And if you're looking at performance goals, you guys make time for that, so that works out. But if people get caught up in, I want to look good, well, what happens when you don't look good?
Yeah.
Well, when are you going to make time to not look good, and what's that going to do to all the other things going on? And can you fix that with like training different? No, you're probably going to have to stop training as much. No, you're probably going to have to, do other things. So suddenly your psychological state's going to need some attention, and that's where, they might start to engage with psychologists or counsellors.
But if we had that initiative from the start, could we have prevented the damage?
Oh, definitely.
100%.
Yeah, definitely. But I think, also just having that openness with peers will probably stop like things from getting so far out of hand.
Because that look good one's got to be tricky, eh? Because like, what's look good? Like, if you're chasing look good, like, when do you decide you're happy?
Well, is it ever like? Is it
like,
ever gonna be happy?
Yeah, exactly right. So you just be on this constant pursuit of something you never find.
And suddenly you're scrolling through social media, and there's I don't look.
There's
like
a
that.
more jacked dude.
Yeah.
There's always
That's
someone
when
more
you're going
jacked.
More. I mean, at least I think with a performance-based thing, you write down the number you want, you work towards, you work out what you got to do to get it, you get said number and have a break and chill out and work towards what's
And again,
next,
it's a different lens we're looking through, because we understand performance doesn't always go up. We understand that we need time away for it to go up.
Well, and also, I mean, does it make you happy? Like, is it fun?
That's a tricky one too.
If it stops being fun, if you stop being passionate about it, is it
worth it?
Yeah, where
Where's the
sometimes
line?
people need to be reminded of that perspective as well. Like,
How many kilos is enough?
where there's that training where sometimes it gets really arduous, and you're there, putting in 10 sets of 3 or something, and it's heavy, 5-minute rest, 10-minute rest or whatever. You're there for 3 hours, 5 times a week, or whatever the program is.
Oh, that's a good program.
Yeah.
Fucking shit. More is not more.
Yeah, that's a good program.
and yeah, at those points, maybe,
That is
I don't know.
obviously a very extreme program.
It stops being fun, I don't know. Or maybe
100%.
it still is.
That's the point, though. A lot of people do this for fun.
Yeah.
But man, I love what you're doing with like the research you're popping out, and I think it's going to be really fucking influential, and it may not be right now, but in the years to come as it does gain traction. So I really commend you on what you're doing. It's been great to see the journey come through, and as I said, we've known each other for a while. But to finish up, now we have 10 very important questions that are rapid fire questions. Now this is designed to build that rapport and trust we speak of. People get to know you.
Yeah.
So
Are you ready?
Yes.
No, you're not.
That's not the first question. You have 30 seconds to tell the world anything you want. Are you ready for that? Start. Go.
I like ice cream so much, and it tastes good on the way up and down, like both ways. Like it feels good. I really feel like a nerd when I say that I like reading books, but I do. I've recently started playing piano, and I actually really like it, which is weird, but I do. I still go to the gym. I hated it for a while, but I love it now.
And Tom. Well done.
Sorry, I've got a follow-up question. That was the best one we've ever had. What do you mean? So you've eaten ice cream to the point where it's come back up?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Fuck. You love ice cream that much.
Like it's one of those foods where, maybe you eat a kebab and that comes back up and it doesn't feel good. Ice cream feels good both ways.
Wow.
And it tastes good, yeah.
What is the strangest thing you have, do, or think about?
Probably that, like what we just said.
Yeah,
that's
actually
You enjoy ice cream coming back up.
Yeah,
That's fair. That is strange. What's the most important quality in a human?
Trust.
What made-up word would you like to see enter the English language?
Canoodle.
Canoodle.
What's a canoodle?
Like I was thinking of like a pool noodle, but I guess traditional canoodling is like snuggling or something.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I was thinking more like a cornflake that like is a noodle, but that like floats in the pool.
Oh yeah. Are you eating the cornflake?
No. You just ride the cornflake through the pool.
Fuck yeah. What's your first memory?
It'd have to be something around like kindergarten. I went to like Mulberry Park, I think, like over near Morningside. It'd have to be somewhere there, like maybe playing in the playground there.
Nice.
Just wholesome.
How do you feel about wombats?
Yeah, they're good.
Excellent.
That's the most fucking Aussie answer I've ever heard.
What's something you learned last week?
So many things. I got my heart rate up to 185 running stairs, and
is that fun?
I didn't know that it got that hot. Like I didn't know that I could get it that high.
You found max?
Well, new max.
New max.
Like, yeah.
Do you feel competitive enough to try and get another new max?
Yes.
Fuck yes. What's your perfect Saturday arvo / evening?
This.
Lovely. Do you believe in ghosts?
Yes.
Oh, got a ghost story?
Oh, it's more like, I haven't seen like a floating, like a demon thing, but definitely, you've been in an old building.
No,
and
doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen?
He's nervous of them.
I don't like them.
Doesn't sleep after ghost stories. It's fun.
We'll go to this building.
No, we're good.
Okay.
Fuck yes. Is it in Brisbane?
Yes.
Oh, good.
We're not.
What's your last words before you die?
I'd just stay quiet. Like, it's better, I think, you open your mouth, you have a chance of looking like an idiot. You stay
Some
quiet.
things better left unsaid.
Seen Deadpool 2 when he's dying and then he like doesn't die and he keeps fucking it up? That's what I can imagine it as.
I remember the legs thing from Deadpool 2 where he gets like ripped in half and then
then he just...
That's like he's just walking around but he looks like a...
I recently watched both of them. Fuck, Ryan Reynolds is hilarious.
Yeah, he's good.
He's a dreamboat.
He is a dreamboat too.
Good looking rooster.
Fuck yes.
Even with a face like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, still 100% would. 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Oh, what a topic to finish on. But now, for people who want to reach out
to Dr. T,
because they ain't gonna say your last name.
Yep.
What's the best way they can find you? Sorry.
Oh, I think email. Email is definitely like I'm on there all the time. Do I say
You can, yeah. I'll put in the show notes as well.
Yeah, well, probably look at this. First name, last name, Timothy.Piatkowski @hdr.qut.edu.au.
Can you say your last name again? It just rolls off the tongue. It sounds so sick.
Sounds
Piatkowski.
I'm not cultured enough. That's so sick. Mate, thank you so much for giving up your Saturday afternoon.
Thanks for having
That was honestly awesome, like hearing what you're doing. Your mission is fucking strong. And I'd love to see where it goes next.
Thanks, guys. Been a pleasure.
Ooh. So what's the Covert Survey?
So, sorry, there is one current research project that's probably relevant to maybe some of the listeners. So, basically, because of the impact of COVID-19, some people's training might have changed or their use of PEDS might have changed, and that might have affected a few things. So, myself and Matt Dunn were running a survey looking at the effects of COVID-19 on PED use and on training and a few other things. Can we put the link maybe in there somewhere? So the link will be there if anybody wants to participate. There's a chance of winning, I think, a few $20 supplement store vouchers or something like that. But really, it's just good data, and it'd be good to get a few people.
Man, flick me through the link and I'll chuck it up in our show notes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Hope
man.
You're ready.
Thanks, guys.